We don't want secrets in the pipeline. So what we need to do is we need to scan if there are secrets in the repository so that we can actually check things from happening before there are any secrets in the repository. So for that, we go to our build section and we are going to modify our build. As you can see, there are a number of tasks already in the build, and we are going to add the credentials task. We are going to do as an output format TSV, and all the other settings we keep as default. This task scans for credentials in your pipeline. The second thing that we need to do is adding a security report because we want to see if something happens as part of the build. So we are going to say security analysis report. We are going to report to the console, to a TSV and a HTML, and we are going to apply that for the cred scan. What we also need to do is to add a post analysis. So we want to do a post analysis for cred scan. And what this does, it is actually checks for any errors in the credential scan, and then it fills your build. If you only add the credential scan, your build won't fill. So we are going to add that, and we are going to press save, and our pipeline will now directly run. As you can see, the build failed because it found secrets. So let's try and fix that in multiple ways. The first thing that we can do is a process-like way of fixing this. We should add reviewers to every check-in so that we can prevent things from entering the repo by just a manual 4 eyes principle check. For that, we go to the project settings. We go to our repositories. We go to our repository and select the master branch. And from here, we can say branch policies. We can protect this branch by a minimum required number of reviewers. So let's set this to 1. And for now, because we don't have a lot of users in our repo, we can say allow users to approve their own changes. What we also can do is we can add a build policy. And we can trigger this build that we just run. So if this build does not succeed, we cannot merge to master. So we are going to put this policy in place as well. Then we are going to save the changes. Now, when we go to our repository and we try to modify a file, so let's take this one for an example. I want to add some comments here. When I try to commit this one, I cannot commit because the master branch is now protected. I need a pull request. I need a separate branch that is reviewed by someone else to actually add changes to my repository. We also need another detection mechanism because the credentials were in the repository, they were rotated, and the website was down. But there was no way for us to see that the website was down. We can fix that by adding a tile to our dashboard that we can look at, or maybe in another step, add an alert so that if the website is down or something else is wrong, we get alerted by Azure. For that, we are going to move to our Azure site. In the resource group that we are using, we also have an application insights tile. Within this tile, you can see field requests, server response time, server requests, and you can even go to log analytics to query for more details. I would definitely recommend that you try to get some information out of log analytics to actually get more information that you can alert on. For now, we are just going to add detection to our dashboard. So I'm going to pin the field request to our dashboard. And once I've done that, we see HTTP5XX that are already pinned, requests, and field requests that are now on our dashboards. When something happens, things will show up here. Looking at a dashboard is fine, but sometimes we want to get alerted. We can add alerts quite easily from the Azure portal as well. Just go to field requests and look at the field request count here, and you can go to view analytics, or you can move towards the alerts page. Within the alerts page, you can create a new alert rule, and it's already selected that it wants to look at application insights. You can add a condition. So for example, field requests. And you can say if the field requests are higher than 1, I want to get alerted. When the alert rule is created, you can go to view configured actions and you can add an action group, which is, for example, one of your email addresses where you want to have a notification. We all know that secrets should not be in your source code, but where to store them? There are multiple options. You can use the variables, of course, that you can set in your Azure release pipeline. You can add variables here, and if you add a new variable called secret, you can have a secret here, and then you can use the padlock sign to actually disable the secret. What you also can do is you can create a key vault. A key vault is created in the Azure portal, and what is great about a key vault is that everybody can access that without having to access your pipelines. So for example, the people that are responsible for rotating the secrets can then rotate the secret in the key vault, and that's automatically picked up by your pipeline. So you can create a new resource and you can call it, you can look for key vault, and then you click create. Once you click create, you of course have to provide some identification for the key vault, and once you've done that, the key vault is created. Once the key vault is created, you can go to the secrets and you can generate or import a new manual secret. You can fill in everything that you want. In this example, I've added the connection string to this key vault that contains the whole connection string. We don't want to create resources manually in Azure. Of course, because it's not a good thing to do, it's not a best practice, but also in some cases you don't even have the right to actually manually create resources on Azure. So what can we do then? We need to create this key vault that we just added, but we need to create it in script. There are also multiple options here. We can use an ARM template. We use that for provisioning of the web application and the application insights. We can add a section there. But you can also just create an Azure CLI script, which is sometimes a more convenient thing to do. So for that, you can go to your pipeline, your release pipeline, because that's where we want to provision the resources, and add an Azure CLI task. We want to authenticate against our resource group, so we point to the GDBC Azure endpoint, and then we can point to a script, or we can just use an inline script. The syntax is quite easy. We can use AZ key vault, create, and then a name. So for example, your team name, Europe Demo Team 01 key vault 1, and the resource group where you want to provision to. And the great part is that you can also use variables here. So the variable resource group will then actually use this variable resource group name. And that will do the trick. We do this as the first one, and we can save this. Now that we have created the key vault, we should also provide the DBA or whoever is responsible for rotating the secrets with a way to easily update the key vault with the new secret. You can create a script, check it into your repo and let them start a pipeline, or you can provide them with a script, and I will show you now how to do it in the portal. So if you go to your Azure portal and open the Cloud Shell on top of here, you will get a new PowerShell or Bash command line. When you open this PowerShell or Bash, you can run the command az key vault secret set, give the name of the secret, the name of the key vault, and the value, and you can easily run that. So this can also be run locally when authenticated to Azure. So this way we are updating the value within the key vault. So the only thing that we need to do now is we need to make sure that the secret that we are using in our variables, in our configuration files within the pipeline, are using these values from the key vault. When we are in our repository and we navigate to our Parts Unlimited SRC Parts Unlimited website config JSON, you can see a connection string here. And this connection string contains database name, username, and also the password. This is something that we do not want. So now we are going to replace this one. We are going to use the key vault within a variable group. We are moving to pipelines library and we are creating a new variable group, which is, for example, called secrets. And we are going to link secrets from an Azure key vault. I'm pointing to my GDBC Azure and I'm pointing to the key vault and I'm adding the default connection string as something that I want to use. Then I'm saving it. When I then go to my release pipeline, I can go to variables and I can add a new variable that is used within the replacement. Because I use the default JSON replacement of web deployment files, I can point to connection strings.default connection string. Because in my configuration.json is a section, its configuration, its connection strings, and then underneath there is a level called default connection string. I'm using that, and as a value I'm going to use the value from the variable group. For that I need to link this variable group that I just created, and the variable is called here default connection string, and in my pipeline variables I can just move and point to this default connection string. So there will be a variable called connection strings.default connection string, and it will be replaced with the value from the key vault. Now that we have created this variable, we need to go to our deploy Azure RM web app, and we can go to the file transform section here. Here we provide the path to the file that we actually want to replace, in this case config.json, and because our variable has the right naming, connection strings.default connection string, this task is intelligent enough to pick it up and actually transform the connection string within the web deployment package. So let's save that. Now we are ready to go to run the build and the release.